May the words of my mouth and the meditations of each heart be holy and acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I want to compliment our readers. I mentioned this in the last service. I want to compliment y'all because there's a yellow note right here that says, "Please do not move the microphone. It is very loose. A new part has been ordered and it will be installed on Monday." And all that makes me want to do is move the microphone. And none of you did. It's like at Mexican food restaurants, they bring you your enchiladas, like, hot plate, don't touch. And I'm like, I'm going to touch it. Don't tell me what to do. I'm going to touch the plate. I grew up watching old movies. That's what my family did. We still do that. It's pretty much all we watched as kids. I loved it, thankful for it, all the rest, but it didn't make my elementary school banter with friends especially easy. You know what I mean? All the guys on the playground would be talking about RoboCop or Freddy Krueger or Gremlins or Big Trouble in Little China, and I'd be like, how about that Cary Grant and Arsenic and Old Lace, huh? Talk about comedic timing. Is it just me, fellas, or does Lana Turner get it going on in The Postman Always Rings Twice? I'd murder her husband too, you know what I mean? But I wouldn't change a thing. I love old movies. And we used to watch certain movies leading up to Easter and around Easter. Classic religious films like Ben-Hur, The Robe, King of Kings. And sure, by today's standards, they're kind of hokey, and they have these weird little moments and these odd little lines, like Edward G. Robinson in the Ten Commandments. And Edward G. Robinson, he primarily played gangsters in film noir classics, but he was one of Pharaoh's aides in the Ten Commandments, and he has this scene with Moses, and he says in a very gangster-esque quality, "Huh, where's your God now, Moses?" Or in the greatest story ever told, did y'all know John Wayne played the Roman centurion at the foot of the cross? And he has this line, "Truly this is the Son of God." And there's a story that director George Stevens actually didn't like the way the Duke said it, and so he said, "Okay, John, we're going to roll again, and this time say the line with awe." And then it rolled the film, and John Wayne said, "Aw, surely this is the Son of God." Now, if you're my age or younger and you're not laughing because you have no clue what I'm talking about, that means I have adequately captured those awkward moments on the playground with my friends. But we watched all those films, and I remember it put me in this headspace. The way Christmas movies trigger your readiness for Christmas Day, those movies triggered my readiness for Easter. And I wouldn't have been able to say this back then, but looking back now, what watching all those movies did is it helped us enter the narrative, the story of Jesus' final days, which was really helpful because I didn't have any other cues. Grocery stores just had advertisements with rabbits and eggs and discounted hams. And we go to church on Palm Sunday at our little Baptist church in Dallas, Texas, and we'd sing our hosannas, and then the next thing you knew, it was Easter Sunday, and standing in front of a camera with your family wearing an itchy suit and a clip-on bow tie, just waiting to slam down a few Cadbury eggs. I can't stand those things anymore. But this whole world happened between those two Sundays, right? This whole world happens between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. So when Eric and I were new Episcopalians, one of the things we were astounded by was Holy Week. That there were these other services throughout the week that you could participate in that marked significant moments in the story of Jesus. And then to learn that it's not just Episcopalians doing this, but all kinds of Christians have been doing these services for over 1,000 years. It was astounding. What at first was the novelty of being introduced to this very ancient Christian practice grew into something different. And it continues to grow. And I have a lot of growth ahead of me. One of the things I'm learning is that there is something about being in the story of Holy Week that gives me courage to be in my own story. And even more, I'm learning ever so slowly that real healing, that real transformation for a guy like me can only happen when I'm with a community that is learning to tell its whole story. All of it. Which makes me wonder if the only communities that can do their part in transforming the world around them are the communities who practice telling their whole story. Because more times than not, we are a culture that shies away from the whole story. We like sound bites and TikTok clips, YouTube shorts, and Facebook memes. We tend to drop our opinions and our prerogatives in these tiny little jabs and then sell them as our stories. Now, please don't hear me saying you should use social media to tell your whole story. Please don't do that. I mean, we can use them for all sorts of things, but the people who run those things, they don't care about us. We're just little dollar signs to the sweaty, crooked politicians that live inside their heads. And we need to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves with the blowhards of this world that try to convince us that we have no story except the story they force feed us. Because we do have stories. Our stories, the whole of them, they're hard to tell. It's not easy. It's tough. Which is why we need safe places to practice that. Places to enter into stories that are tough and honest and painful and ambiguous and ever going. And the more we can do that, then maybe the more we can do it in our own lives, with our own stories, with the people we love and trust. And Holy Week is such a story. It's full of pain and ambiguity. It's about being human and dropping the ball and giving up and still being called in the midst of failing and fragile discipleship and misunderstanding. And there's always another part of the story yet to tell. And it's in that small little space right there we sense hope might be part of the story too. This morning, it's probably already obvious. I'm not offering you a sermon so much as an invitation. We've just crossed the threshold this Palm Sunday. So this Holy Week, be here. Be here. We know life is complicated. We get it. Family, marriage, work, the list can go on, and there's so much that needs attention. Truly, we get it. And there will be no judgment passed whatsoever if you can't be here with us this week. But if you can create the space, be here. Come to one of our evening prayer services Monday through Wednesday. Come on Monday, Thursday, and get your feet washed and watch this altar become just an empty table. Help us keep vigil through that night by spending just 1 hour, an hour of your choosing in prayer in this beautiful space. On Good Friday, hear the Passion narrative read and witness the cross being brought to the very center of our attention. And if you've never been part of the great vigil of Easter on Holy Saturday, you'll be taken back by how we take off the darkness and put on light. And if you can't do any of that, please take the bulletin home with you. You'll see at the very center of it is the entire Passion narrative. Take it home with you. Maybe read a little bit each day. Reflect on it. And by the time Easter Sunday comes around, we'll all be here together again. Sure, there's going to be a luncheon and an egg hunt and plenty of kids running around in dresses and itchy suits and clip-on ties, and I'm sure at some point you'll find yourself standing in front of a camera. But you'll do so as a storied people, because you showed up to be in the story that it's at the heart of all of this. You help those sitting beside you tell the story. Learn to tell it a little better yourself. And somewhere along the way, found the courage to be in your own story too. Amen.